So, hey guys, I am live a little bit sooner just because I want to make sure everything is set up. So, I'm here. I'm here. I'm just trying to make sure that we're on, make sure that all the technical stuff is happening because this is my first time going live like this, especially, adding a second person and all of that. It is a learning curve. I'm actually super excited to have this discussion and pretty much a therapy session with my speech therapist. I've been knowing Heather for such a long time, and she's someone who I've always just adored completely. And I've been working on a lot of stuff that we worked on when I first started seeing her, which was like 4 years ago. And since I'm now like sort of really starting from scratch because I'm kind of entering this larger realm in my life where I've been talking to more people. I'm actually go doing some promo on a show where I'm specifically talking about stuttering, and this person who I'm going to be talking to has like 4 million followers, and so I'm really nervous about that. And you know, literally all of the speech techniques and all of the things that I learned when I first started taking therapy is all relevant to where I am at this point now, where I am, speaking to a bit more larger audiences and my reach is a bit larger. And so now I'm just pretty much really kind of interested in rehashing everything that has helped me and using it at this new place that I'm going to be entering. Hi, guys. There's so many of you guys here. I really appreciate you guys for joining. Um, when you guys are looking at the screen, is it just me, or are you seeing a bunch of other stuff? Let me know in the comment section. I'm still trying to figure out how to find the comments on my phone. Yikes. Okay. Because I'm live right now. My phone is telling me that. I'm just trying to figure out how to watch it from my phone so I can just make sure we're good. I know the feedback's going to be crazy, but my videos. Okay, let me turn this down all the way. Okay, let me go to my live. Okay, yes, I'm looking at myself now. Okay, cool. Have any of you guys ever done speech therapy before? I'm interested in knowing because I know that some of the things that me and Heather end up talking about, you guys may not know the words to. So I'm just trying to figure out how much I may need to explain, or, if we should, just start from scratch. I see you in your background. What? My background is messy. It is only you on my end. Okay, good, good, good. Okay. Okay, okay. Me and we're in my like sunroom slash office right now where I like make clothes on my mannequin sometimes. I crochet a whole lot, and so that's a part of it. But I have to get rid of my. You don't have to get rid of your German dialect. Why would you have to get rid of that? I don't think there's a reason to. Okay, hold on. Let me just check my Zoom because it's 8 o'clock now. And let me see if she sent me an email at all. Making sure that we're still here. YouTube. Okay, so we're live. All right, so we're live. Let me see if she's. Oh, she's waiting to join. Yes, you used to go to therapy, but you stopped. Okay. All right. So I'm glad you guys have told me all of this. Okay, so Heather, I'm gonna put you on the main screen now, okay?
Okay.
Okay. My stuttering's becoming a bit labored. I'm nervous. I was going and got tired of getting picked on. Oh, I'm sorry that you got picked on at your therapy. All right, so I'm going to go live with Heather right now. So you guys will see us in 1 second as soon as I figure out how to work this thing. Okay, here we go. Default scene. All right, and then I'm going to make this large and in charge. And we are on.
Who's on with us?
It's me and you, and then we have about 8 people watching. There are some people who are asking questions. If you want to
I
know,
see.
yeah. So okay, yes, okay. So we're on all the way. So I guess we should just start. So hey guys, I'm Jacqueline. If you're watching this, you probably already know who I am. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about a myriad of things, stuttering being one of them. And I just really wanted to bring on my speech pathologist, Heather Grossman, who is someone like that I've been working with for an extended amount of time now. We've been working together for about 5 years, somewhat
But with
on.
big breaks. But with
Yeah,
big breaks. Yeah.
yeah. So like on and off, but uh, she's really someone who's helped me just kind of really build up my confidence around myself, being a person who stutters, and also just helping me to not fear speaking situations, because that's what really was my big crux, was fear of other people's judgment, and also just like living life as a person who stutters and being confident in that. And so like she's just really been invaluable to my growth as a speaker and just as a communicator. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Heather Grossman. I'm the director of the American Institute for Stuttering. I've worked with people who stutter for about 30 years. I'm kind of obsessed with it, as Jacqueline knows. I talk about stuttering in my free time.
She knows any and everything, and like when there's like new stuff coming out about stuttering, she's like on it as well. um
Well, what I find fascinating about stuttering, that that a lot of people like don't realize, it's one of the first things I usually tell like parents of kids who stutter, that everything about stuttering is paradoxical. As soon as you think you know something, it's actually the opposite. So you think working on being fluent is going to be the most helpful thing for you, and then you work on just being fluent, and in a way you're almost inadvertently building the fear and making this idea that you have to be fluent. So when you know you can't be fluent, you're going to get a fear response.
yeah.
We know another paradox is when you voluntarily stutter, you lose a lot of the struggle of your real stutter for many people, which is ironic because people spend their whole life trying not to stutter. And now you just let yourself do it a little bit and find some benefits from that. One more, when you say to yourself, oh, it doesn't matter, how I, like, in other words, in situations where you're talking to a dog or like a pet or someone you're really comfortable with, it would be fine to stutter there. And that's where you're fluent. Like, that's where you're most fluent because you're so comfortable. But where you really want that fluency is in the high stress situation when you have to give your presentation.
Which is also why like when stutterers are usually by themselves, we're pretty fluent also, right?
Exactly, exactly. So one of the things that I always say, of course there are differences when you're speaking alone in a room. You know, of course you're not communicating technically, but it's still your same mouth. It's still your same body. So if you're speaking and you're alone, it has to give you a little bit of knowledge that maybe a lot of the struggle that I have in my speech is related to really not feeling safe to stutter.
That makes sense. Which is something that I guess we end up getting programmed and told over and over along our journey of growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's interesting because I just came in contact with someone who like seemingly had a very positive upbringing as it pertains to stuttering and like not a lot of outside influence, but their speech was still a bit labored. Do you think that maybe there's some subconscious like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously traumatic feedback when you're a kid, parents saying things like, oh, say it again fluent, or, I don't want to hear that stutter, or kids laughing at you, or a teacher calling on someone else while you're in the middle of the block, or someone saying, what's your name again? Like, say your name again. I want to hear, like, any of those little things do contribute to creating a gremlin that it's not safe to stutter. And then you carry that not being safe to stutter with you every time you open your mouth. And that will create some of the labor. But to your point, if you've never had those outside traumas, ironically, I've noticed, especially maybe for women, I don't know, it seems like more for women, a lot of times it's very inward. Like they didn't necessarily have the trauma come from someone else, but often it comes from themselves. Like this constant, what's wrong with you? Why do you talk like that? You got to stop it. No one's going to want to be with you. You're never going to get a job. So you can trauma your own head in the way you talk to yourself. And that's obviously the key to one of our, that's what you and I have been working on, is being able to change your self-talk to something that's a little more healthy, which then allows your emotional system to stay regulated when you're talking, which then makes your natural speech flow better.
Right.
It sounds so simple. And it's funny because a lot of people, a lot of people have taken the old school way, just like you, Jacqueline, who've worked those targets. Boy, did they work those targets, and then only to find, okay, then they go to the new route, which is changing your thoughts, not changing the way that you speak, but changing your thoughts. Now, I'm curious, which do you find more challenging to do?
So for those of you guys who may not completely understand, like she's asking me about the different methods of like dealing with my stutter that I tried over time. I've done multiple intensives, some that only focused on like fluency shaping, meaning like trying to create fluent speech and not dealing with the psychological side. The sun is going crazy. I'm sorry. Not dealing with the psychological side of stuttering. And when I went to that intensive, they had to do different, practices. One time at the end of the week of the intensive, we were supposed to take everything that we've learned. Mind you, they had us locked in these small rooms for like 6 hours a day, talking to a computer, trying to retrain our vocal, I guess the intensity of like with what we speak. But when you're in a small room practicing on a computer all day, you're not getting you're not getting interaction with people, but you're also not not feeling what it's really like in the speaking situations. It's sort of like, just being in a room by yourself. So once I had to take those exercises and put them into the real world, it completely destroyed me because I thought that I should be able to speak by the end of this. Um,
And ironically, I don't know if you had any of this, but many people find speaking with the targets feels so inauthentic because, you know, you're not speaking spontaneously, that it's almost like this cognitive dissonance that, like, I want to be fluent, but I don't want to sound like what I sound like when I use the tool to be fluent. Did you have that?
Yes. So part of it also is it took away my natural cadence.
Right.
It took away my ability to like be able to joke or like, you know, have
Yep.
my personality in my speech, which is important to me because a lot of, you know,
Of course.
like I'm such an artistic and an expressive person. Like I literally like write how people speak, and so to not be able to, you know, speak in a way that's natural to me, it just felt like it was taking so much away from who I am.
Yeah. You know, and again, my mind goes back to your point before. You know, you're alone in a room, you open your mouth, and out comes your natural cadence, right? So to me, therapy should focus on what do we do to make life feel more like that? Not what do we do to overhaul the way you speak whenever you're out in life. That
Right.
doesn't make any sense to me when you already have it in that safe situation.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's like very important data. And, you know, and honestly, you know, don't you, I mean, I know you've seen this. I see it with so many people. It's like everybody worries about what other people think. It's like a universal, you know?
Yeah.
And one of the stuttering gremlins is if I stutter too much, it's going to be a negative, I'm going to get a negative reaction.
Yeah.
You know? So when you work on fighting that gremlin, then what ends up happening is I see people going in a situation and they tell me that the thought becomes, well, of course I didn't want to stutter, but I learned that I don't have to be fluent. And when I tell myself I have to be fluent, I just get myself so tense that my stuttering just gets more tense and avoidant. So then let me just try to embrace the idea that, of course, I don't want to stutter. Nobody would want to stutter. But at some point, you have to do a cost benefit analysis and say, but what is it costing me to work so hard to be 100% fluent? You know, at what cost to my soul and my spontaneous voice? You know, and many people get to the point where they're like, you know what, the hell with it. I'm not going to give away my power to people by worrying what they think.
Right.
You know, of course I want them to approve of me, but they don't have to. I'll get over it. I'll live. You
And
know?
like really what is their approval going to give you in the end?
Well, that's just it. Many people have another gremlin, which is catastrophizing.
Yes,
Oh, and if
I
that
had that
person
one.
doesn't like, and if that person doesn't like me, then I'm going to be homeless. Like, I've had some people tell me that, you know, that they literally fear that their stuttering could lead them to losing their job, losing their girlfriend, never getting another job, never. I mean, I've had people like just go right for it with me.
No one will hire me. It's like something that I held on myself especially was that I wasn't a useful part of society, that people would have to take care of me my entire life. And I thought
Wow.
all of that while actively working and taking care of myself. So like even though my actual life defied that belief, I think that belief was present for so long that it just became how I thought about myself.
Right. And that's a perfect example of a cognitive gremlin. You know, like even as you were working, there was this itch, you know, but if I stop working, will I ever get another job?
Will like sort of like as if the fact that I had a job at that moment was a fluke. And like, well, somehow I just got hired. Will it ever happen again?
Well, that's why I really think another important piece of the therapeutic process is what we call the data collection, you know, applying the scientific method. So collecting data in this case looks at meeting as many people that you can who stutter openly and have amazing jobs. Because as soon as you start seeing it over and over and over, you say to yourself, why am I being so unkind to myself? Why am I putting myself down? If they can do it, damn it, I can do it too. I can do this. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I think that's really important, is that people, open their eyes to other people who stutter and their experiences.
I think part of that is because some of the only successful people that we see who stutter in the limelight are the ones who overcame it, or who we don't see openly stuttering. And so, like, yeah, that
They're not the role
person.
models. Yeah, I agree with you. They're not the role models. The role models are the people who, like George at Goldman Sachs, and, like Jesse, who's a psychiatrist who stutters, and you know what I mean? Like that's what you want to see. Roisin, who's a triage nurse.
Yeah. Yes, Roisin. I so because we have such a small amount of people who are, because we have so few, I guess, who are like held up and shown to the stuttering community that this is what stuttering as an adult and being successful at as an adult looks like. What do you think, like, we should do, or like people who have a platform about stuttering, in order to kind of change that narrative?
Well, I think a lot of it, first of all, is internal. Because I think a lot of people try to change opinions when their own opinion is not even 100% pure. You become all militant about stuttering when you in your heart still don't feel it's okay to stutter. So
Absolutely.
It's like, so that's a little weird too, like I think you almost have to like really work on, yourself, self-acceptance, being so beautifully self-accepting. And then I think at that point, it becomes really easier to advertise in a way that's very objective and educational, supporting, like there's a filmmaker, Michael Turner, who stutters, and his first film was about stuttering, but his second film is not about stuttering, and he's going to narrate it anyway.
Oh, nice.
And he stutters a lot, so he's making a conscious decision to stutter a lot as he's doing the narration for a very heavy documentary that has nothing to do with stuttering. And that's a brave decision. Some people would say that's a brave decision. I think it's a much needed move. So I think it's going to be things like that.
Okay.
It's
Okay. Well, I guess we can get into my own session, because I've been doing a lot of noticing work this week.
Mhm.
And noticing work is sort of like the start of being aware of your triggers for stuttering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the longer that we don't see each other, the more I forget how important noticing work is, because it's sort of like the launch point to me figuring out. I'm sorry, my computer is making noises. I don't know how to stop it at the moment.
I don't know how to stop it either.
Oh my goodness. But like it's helping me learn my triggers, and also it's helping me figure out like why, well, not why yet, but like in what situations I just want to force my words out instead of ease through it, or stutter.
Right. And it's an empowering type of approach, because many people have this view that their stuttering sometimes is bad, and sometimes it's fine, but many people, when you say, well, why were you speaking so well in that situation? They'll say, I feel comfortable. That's usually what people say, because I felt comfortable. So I say, well, what does comfortable translate to in terms of mental energy? And most people don't really know. They think comfort is a physical feeling in your body. And to your point, noticing work kind of like the way it works is you're supposed to be like you're walking around. So in avoidance reduction, you're working on uttering in a more forward moving manner. Okay, with less tension, but certainly a decent amount of notice. Notice, like you can notice that the person's stuttering, but that's not the idea. So the idea is that you're talking like that, and then all of a sudden something happens where you're completely dysregulated. You kind of feel the tense, what we call tense avoidant stuttering coming back, whatever your secondaries are. If it's the eye closing, which you have, so other people, hit their foot. It might be adding ums and likes. It might be changing words around. And many people just stop the analysis because it's very uncomfortable. So they're like, I was stuttering so bad. And then they just leave it. So in noticing work, you kind of say to yourself, it's not just a fluke that something triggered me to stutter more tense and avoidant. What cognitive gremlin basically was whispering in my ear in that situation, and we go through the major categories, either you're self-downing or you're demanding that you be fluent, which of course makes you stutter more, or all of a sudden you're so worried about how the other person's going to react when you stutter, or you all of a sudden get like catastrophizing, oh my God, I can't handle this. And noticing work has you basically step out of the situation and say, all right, what's going on here? Why here? Why did I feel it wasn't safe to stutter with those people or that? And a lot of people, so here's a concrete example. One of my clients was telling me that he's making a lot of moves stuttering on the phone, including stuttering on the phone in front of coworkers, which was a very big barrier for him. He would go like out in the hall, right? And then one day he was making the call, but someone who's not usually there was there. And what had been very forward moving and easy now became kind of tense and avoidant, and then he realized that he has some baggage with that guy because he never told that guy that he stutters, and he's actually a little intimidated by that guy.
So the intimidation and the act of sort of not letting him know that he stutters is what then made it stutter a bit more laborious.
Right, because by not telling him, I didn't make a safe space for myself to stutter, which means I'm going to go back into my automatic, my default memory, but I'm going to shut my door.
Okay.
Why do people have to cut the grass in the middle of a workday?
Would it be to advertise and tell the guy that he stutters?
Well, that could be very helpful. That, therapy should be a very, client-driven process. So, if he would feel comfortable with it, but for some people, that's a hard jump to make.
Yeah, right. What are,
and some people just have it in their head that I can't advertise to that person. But then maybe we could work on it a little bit in a different way. Well, like some people you use voluntary stuttering as a way to sort of advertise. So if you're not willing to
say it, then I guess the physical action of it is also a way of saying it.
Right. Although I still think that leaves a lot to the listener to interpret.
True. Okay. Yeah.
So I always think it's better to just be out with it, but but that's it's a huge discomfort for many people to get over that hurdle to tell people. Again, your gremlin tells you don't talk about it, don't hide it. Whatever you do, hide it. Don't let it out. Don't talk about it. People aren't going to be interested in it. And that's another thing. No stuttering. They don't. And another one of the data collect people and teach them.
Hold on. I think my internet is a little wonky. Would you mind going back like 20 seconds? Are we still
Wait,
on?
you're frozen.
Yes. Ah!
Okay.
All right.
Are we good?
I think we're good now. All right.
Um,
You said the data.
oh, right. That people who don't stutter do tend to be very, very interested. And you usually find out that they're doing stupid things is ignorance and not meanness.
Right.
You know, some people aren't mean.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely. Um. Is it also true that once a non-stutterer spends enough time with a person who stutters that they over time don't even like hear the stutter anymore?
Pretty much. You know, I think of it as an accent. You know, that's kind of how I like to frame it. Because when you think about it, it's like you're hearing it, but it's not like, it's not a thing. It's just there. You know what I mean? Like an accent, just a different way of speaking.
So, like, say stutterers were all from like one specific island. This is hypothetical AF. But, like, say we all came from one specific side of the world. Do you think that when people not from the island would talk to us, that they would actually see it as a type of accent and not a speaking disability?
It's a good point. Yeah.
I try to make
because at that point you've made it where it literally is an accent. You know, it's a feature of having grown up in a geographic location, and you know, we always say in language, birds of a feather speak together. You know.
Okay. So
cool idea.
Thank you. I have a like pretty big interview that's gonna happen on tomorrow, and I wanted to talk through that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this particular interview is specifically about stuttering, and so like
Okay.
I'm going into it knowing that I'm going to be talking about stuttering, which lowers my nervousness about it.
Yeah. Start with this premise. It would make no sense for me not to stutter
Right.
when I'm talking to this person about my stuttering project.
Right.
That would make no sense at all.
Right. The thing that I think makes me a bit nervous is because it's going like his audience is large. And so that's the part that's sort of like it doesn't make me as nervous as if I weren't as if blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make me as nervous as if I were talking about something related to stuttering, but it also makes me nervous because it's going to be a lot of eyes. I also don't know how to control the conversation as a person who stutters on someone else's platform.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to maneuver through all of those things at the same time because, you know, I don't want to be like, hey, excuse you, sir, I'm talking. Or like maybe I will have to do something like that. But I'm always trying to figure out how to still keep control. The word control is not a good one. But like keep my personal autonomy.
Right. Well, you want to keep your emotions in control.
Yeah.
You don't want to become emotionally dysregulated. And the key is not letting, if the guy does, you know, cut you off, not letting it get so frustrating, you know, like that's another one of the REBT tools. Like if it becomes, oh God, he's interrupting me again. Then all of a sudden it's going to be out the window, you know? But if it becomes, all right, that's a little annoying, but I guess I'll just have to wait a little bit longer, and maybe I need to add a little more sound to the stutter so he knows that I'm still in the middle of a word, you know? But if you like don't become completely dysregulated, then you're able to make like cognitive decisions in live time.
Adding sound to stutters has always been difficult for me because I think it kind of reinstates, like, my blocking is pretty silent usually, and like over time I've been able to add a bit more sound into it, to keep like the forward moving speech going, but I still have a difficult time with forward moving speech and adding sound into my blocks. And I feel like I kind of know why, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, I know that I don't know if it's a, I don't like how it sounds, or if I don't, it makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I stutter more even. That's something that I've like been fighting with for the past few years, is just kind of making sure that my speech continues while I'm blocking.
Right. That makes sense. You know, but you've discussed in the past, you know, that you've identified certain things, like, for example, you told me that a lot of times you would wear glasses so you could like sort of hide your eyes if you were going to have like, you know, one of those more tense things. So to your point, maybe not wanting to add sound, you know, when you think about it, when you add sound to a silent block, like, what is a silent block? A silent block is a gremlin says to you, whatever you do, don't let that dude hear you stutter. So the best way for you to not have an audible stutter is to turn it into a block. You know, but, you know, self-perpetuating. But one thing to think about is when you block the glasses, because you visual of stuttering. But when we do that, we're embracing now the audio of stuttering.
Right.
And many people don't want to touch the audio and stutter more. Like, what are you, crazy? So I hear where you're coming from. A lot of people have that. You know, it's like this constant like mind battle, you know, where you do the cost benefit analysis where it's like, no, it's better to keep sound in it because I feel better, it's forward moving. But as soon as you become a little dysregulated, your default mode comes back and you block. You know, that's kind of how it works. So what I find is when people are doing this work, it's more like, it's not like you eliminate all your blocks and tense avoidant speech. You know, it's more like where maybe there was a lot of that and just a little bit of clean forward moving stuttering. You know, we want to sort of change it so that you have less blocks and tense avoidant and more forward moving stuttering. You know, but many people tell me there's always going to be some days where things get tough, where things get tense and avoidant. And that's where it's really important to practice like self-kindness, you know, because that's another thing in the avoidance reduction model, that when you enter a situation like a huge audience or an interview that really, for whatever reason, means so much to you that it's hard for you to kind of hold it together, you know, we would call that a new and challenging situation. So in a way, you almost have to realize that some of that tense avoidant stuttering is going to come out, and that even that's okay. You know that you can utter more forward, but you don't have to do it all the time.
Right. I think what I've been trying to do with voicing my blocks also is that I'm trying to do it in the most efficient way that is also like not full on. And so I think because I put stipulations on it from the beginning, it keeps me from getting all the way there. Like, I did the same thing when I first started voluntary stuttering. I would only allow myself to like voluntary stutter 3 times, like like bath. When in actuality, maybe I needed way more to end up getting through. I'm like a structured structured weird human who like has to put herself in boxes and guidelines and so on. I think a part of me has always felt that like there's nothing innately sexy about stuttering. There's nothing, like the who I see myself as a person, stuttering doesn't necessarily mix with. And so I try to make stuttering mold into the who I see myself as and who I want to be. And instead of dealing with my stutter as a stutter and only that, I tend to like layer my self perception on top of it. This is so much. We're diving in. Yikes.
Yeah. And the whole thing, like you said, by the way, about like adding sound efficiently, that's a gremlin. The gremlin is telling you it has to sound pretty or look pretty. So that would be fine. But what about that? Would that be fine?
For my persona? For who I but in order to get to where it is that I want to be, I have to do it as loud and proud, I guess, as I can. Is that what you're saying, Heather?
A little frozen.
Damn it.
Yes. So
okay, I'm just gonna move into another.
So basically, the idea. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You moving?
Yes.
So a lot of people, I think, draw a line in the sand. Going like that doesn't sound different. But going like that does kind of sound a little different.
Right.
So your gremlins tell you you can do the first one, but not the second one.
Right.
And when you think about it, that's BS.
Right.
If I can do them all. And to your point, when you don't fear it sounding ugly, all of a sudden it never sounds tense anymore. Like I've seen a couple of people who are speech pathologists go through this in their own life. And I remember seeing them at certain conferences where they were, I can think of 2 people. And I saw them like 2 years later and they were uttering different. But it's more like the way they explained it to me was they had to embrace stuttering in this very loud, in your face way for a really long time before they felt comfortable enough.
Yikes. It's interesting because I've seen people like really embrace I guess what I would call the extreme stuttering and then slowly mold it into whatever it is that they eventually, form it into, which is, more conversational speech. And I think I've always just been so afraid of that one level of it that I've never been able to fully break through into the place where I can control it to the degree that I want to.
Right. And again, that's where I think also the stuttering community comes in. Because for some people to make that leap to doing that with other people, might seem a little strange, but maybe they could do it when they're in a support group for people who stutter.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Feel a little safer, or talking to someone who's, a friend who's a person who stutters. Sometimes I think, the most helpful thing is a person who stutters getting on a call with someone else and setting an intention, but a healthy intention. Like, I'm going to work on keeping my eyes open when I stutter, or I'm going to work on keeping my stutter a little bit more audible because I know that that's going to help crush my gremlin. And that's part of this work. We call it intention. So you might walk into a situation, like you walk into your interview.
Yeah.
And your intention is going to be, I'm not going to rush. I'm going to realize that everybody's a little awkward on Zoom. I don't have to be any less awkward or more awkward than anybody else. It's always awkward. I can stutter openly. I will stutter openly, and it's going to be okay.
And those are really the mantras that I have to kind of run through my head over and over and over again when entering different situations like that. Oh, I also just wanted to clear up, when I said I was doing an interview and he had a large audience, what I meant was like, there won't be an audience there, but it will, eventually be broadcasted out to a large number of people. See that?
So, but isn't it interesting that your brain, in preparing for the thing tomorrow, already inserted audience?
Yeah.
There's no audience tomorrow.
There's no audience. There's technically no audience.
So there's no reason to catastrophize about the future. It's just one step at a time. You can only do the interview, and then when the audience comes in, you'll deal with that.
Yeah.
But don't be going in, gosh, how am I going to speak like this once it's that big audience? That's not, rational thinking.
Right. Gosh, I feel like you still have to remind me of so much that you taught me like years ago.
It's not second nature for us to be nice to ourselves. We usually buy into, gremlins that tell us we're not good enough, we're not thin enough, we're not working out enough,
smart enough,
whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody has them, but then people have stuttering gremlins on top of everything else.
Right.
But everybody's got gremlins.
True. Well, we have about, what time is it? We have about 15 minutes left, so I wanted to leave time for any of the viewers to mention anything that they heard and or want to expound on. So if you guys have any questions or any statements or anything that you guys want to say, just please put them in the chat box below. I'm actually going to go through some of them because we have a lot of comments.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. People have really been chatting in. One person says, is Mela Sadie? I hope I said that right. Is that their fear of being judged is their biggest challenge.
Right.
There's
a lot of tools for that one. That's a hard one. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you there?
I'm trying to figure out
okay.
how to make this thing. My computer is just acting up. What are you doing, computer? Oh my gosh. Okay, thank God. Okay, I figured it out.
Okay. Well, there's a couple, the whole, everybody, that's one of the central things. Everybody wants to be approved of, accepted. Think about it. When people go on dates, they like hide the worst parts of themselves, hoping that the person will like them, and then they'll let this thing out. Like it just shows like that certain things in our personality we see as negative, and ugly to the point where we don't share it, right? So that's a big problem. So one of the things that we work on when we look at not caring so much about other people is, first of all, you say, I care about what other people think about me.
Yes.
We're social beings, and we've evolved to make social groups. So of course, if I'm rejected by the social group, it's going to not feel very good to me in terms of my evolution. And that is the reason that we are so fearing not being accepted in the first place. But then that's the power where you say, wait a minute, I have all kinds of groups of people who accept me. I have my friends, I have my work, I have my family, I have my best friend. I don't need everybody to like me and approve me. And then you say to yourself this, wait a minute, do I like everyone? No. Am I allowed to not like somebody?
Yes.
Totally. So why shouldn't somebody else not be allowed to not want me? That's fine. We can still have a dance of communication without us being the best of friends. That's fine. I have my social group. I don't really need you.
Well, how would you say, like, dealing with maybe someone who's really flippant on the fact that you stutter? Like when I was in college, there was this one friend, and I guess I just really wanted to be a part of the popular kids so bad that there's a certain treatment that I completely accepted. Like there was this one girl whenever my stutter was too long for her, she would just like flip me off and then like change the subject or move the conversation on somewhere else. Like what would be a...
I'm going to ask you, if that happened now, this happens to you now, you're at a party and you a woman and the person does that.
I would probably keep talking until I got everything I wanted to say out. Or I would address it and be like, if you don't want to have this conversation, we don't have to have this conversation.
And the other option, because sometimes in a situation we become like so emotionally dysregulated that the words don't come, like sometimes something happens where you're like, and it's like, it happens to me all the time where like a day later, I'm like, you know what I should have said?
Yeah,
I should have said this and I should have said that, but I was freaking out, right?
All the time.
So, but you always have the opportunity to go back and say, you know what, when we were talking the other day at that party, I had like a long stutter and you did this thing. I'm going to tell you, that's not going to fly. If you do that again, I don't really think we can be friends, because that's the kind of reaction that's contributed to the psychological baggage of stuttering in the first place.
Right.
And I'm not going to let you bring me down. I'm just not.
So I guess it's about standing up for yourself, which was so hard for me because innately I just always knew and or was told and or just thought that stuttering was bad and that I shouldn't be doing it anyway.
Hell's no.
I know. Now I know, now that I've like been talking to you and we've been working on reconstructive, what is it called?
Cognitive restructuring.
Yeah, like it's that's all been incredibly helpful in like building up my confidence and my self-esteem as it pertains to my speech especially, but prior to that I was a hot mess.
Yeah, but that's a gremlin too. You weren't a hot mess. You were just stuttering more tensely and avoidantly. You were still a beautiful person. You were never a hot mess. Shut up.
Thank you, Heather. Here's our love affair.
Not on my watch.
We have another comment. It says, When I stutter, it's the strange looks that people give me when I'm having blocks or having trouble speaking that makes my confidence go down and my anxiety go up.
Right, right. Well, I mean, the face usually is what's going on, and thinking that the person is stuttering is usually the last thing that the person thinks of for some reason. Unless you stutter like this, if you have blocks and prolongate, most people don't even know you're stuttering. I can't tell you the stupid things people will say, like, are you having a seizure? Do you have a breathing problem? Do you have a tic? So I think when you see that, you're seeing the cognition behind the eyes, which is saying, what is going on? Right? And you can always tell the person what's going on. And that takes the face away. Oh, I see that you noticed that. And here's another thing. You don't have to advertise right at the beginning. Let's say you walk up to somebody in the middle of the street and you just start talking to them. Like, oh, do you see that restaurant? And now you have a tense stutter. You see the face and you go, oh, yeah, I stutter when I talk. I'm a person who stutters, I see you just noticed that. And then you keep talking. Very clean.
Usually when I'm in situations like that, like when a conversation just sort of like sparks up and I don't have the opportunity, or I just don't advertise in the very beginning of that conversation, what I'll do is I'll say like, oh, by the way, I stutter. And then
oh, that's great. I can't tell you, Jacqueline, how many people have this weird gremlin that if they don't say it at the beginning, they can't say it. That makes what? Why would you draw that line in the sand?
I was just going to make a horrible correlation, but like I've dated men who have told me way less further down the line, and I'm like, why did you not tell me that sooner? And I'm just kind of like, why am I not telling people that I stutter when like people hold secrets in for like months and until it's absolutely time to like say it. And I'm like, it just, when I relate it to situations like that in real life, I see how much of a mind bleep it is for me to, not want to tell people, or
Right.
especially if it relieves me mentally and emotionally.
Yep.
We have about 5 more minutes. You want to like wrap it? I have to figure out how to finish all of this live stuff. But like, is there? I don't know. We talked about so much today. I'm trying to think of what my like practice for this upcoming week should be.
The interview's tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think, working on, your intentions of confidence and allowing yourself to stutter, trying your best to keep, eye contact. And at the same time, don't get frustrated if things don't go 100% the way you want them to, because it is a challenging situation, and that's part of noticing, by the way. So if you become tense and avoidant, sometimes the trigger is simply because it's a very high stress situation.
Yeah.
And that's part of the noticing too, In avoidance reduction, the idea is that your forward moving stuttering comes out in more and more and more situations. But the situations that it comes in later are the ones where you still have that itch to not stutter.
Got you. Well,
So you got to really work on getting over that itch, and keep constantly asking yourself, why do I keep thinking it's not okay to let stuttering out? And obviously the answer might be something like, well, because of public perception that people who stutter are stupid, or people who stutter are to be laughed at. But you don't buy into that. There are going to be some people that think that, just the way some people think that people with Down syndrome, frankly, should have been sterilized. I don't know if you knew that. Like, that's like a big thing. Like, in history, they were like, you know what, we shouldn't really have Down syndrome. It's easy to get rid of it. So, like, why don't we just sterilize all the people that are likely to have a Down syndrome baby?
Yikes.
And now realizing that people who have Down syndrome have a lot to offer. It's just not the same as neurotypical people.
Right.
But that's what makes life beautiful, So it's like realizing I'm allowed to stutter. I'm a beautiful person. I'm a flawed, beautiful person. No better, no worse than anybody else. Stuttering is my thing. That just happens to be my thing. Everybody's got a thing. Stuttering's my thing.
This is a really lovely place, I think, to end it. When my stuttering life actually just commented, stuttering is my best personality scale. It lets you know who is worthy of your time.
That's true. Exactly. Right. Sometimes some people say that, like, when they self-disclose, how the other person reacts. Like, some people have told me when they self-disclose, all of a sudden the other person starts telling them, like, the deepest, darkest secret of their lives. It's like, okay, I just told you that I stutter. I don't want to hear about your gallbladder.
My goodness. I think because people think that you're being vulnerable with them, it then opens them up to be vulnerable with you also.
Yep. But vulnerable in a good way.
Yes.
Like approachable.
Yes.
Think of vulnerable as like approachable, open.
Non-judgmental.
Right.
I think this is a really lovely place to end our live session.
All right, very good. Always lovely seeing you.
Yeah, it's always
and
lovely.
Thank you to the observers. I'm glad I didn't have to see their eyes, because that would have made me nervous.
No, they're just typing online. They are really enjoying this. So thank you for doing
Awesome.
this with me.
And by the way, if any of the people who are listening want to get on the AIS mailing list, because we do have a lot of free events that you don't have to be a client. We have movie nights, like we do a lot of things because we're not-for-profit that are open to the whole community. Sometimes we'll have a researcher, like we had a research a couple weeks ago talking about self-disclosure and the research in that, So for some people who don't want to go to therapy but want to just keep, learning and exploring, we do have that. So if anybody, you can share my email if you want, Jacqueline.
Okay, great. I'm gonna type it in the comment box. I also want to specify, because I'm not sure if we said it, but AIS is the American Institute for Stuttering, which Heather is the director of.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm also going to put your email in there as well. You guys are so welcome. There are people saying thank you, and so I just wanted to let you know that.
Oh, cool.
All right, so I'm going to put...
All right, I hope to see some of them online soon.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Heather, I will talk to you later.
All right, good luck tomorrow, baby.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. All right, so I'm going to end our Zoom. Okay, she's gone. So, guys, I'm just going to type her email in there. She has been my therapist for years now, and my confidence has grown so much ever since working with her. I've really been blessed to really understand stuttering so much more because of her. And so, treatment.org. Okay. H. Grossman at stutteringtreatment.org. And also AIS, which is the American Institute for Stuttering, has been so helpful to helping me meet other people who stutter, helping me learn about stuttering, helping me desensitize whenever I get down on myself. She has been, her and all of her colleagues have been there 100%, just ready to pick me back up. And it has been such an invaluable relationship that I've had since I was in my mid-20s or so. So super duper duper important. I'm going to read these last few comments and then I'm going to head out because I got some writing to do. But Sweet India asks, what happens when constant exposure makes you more self-conscious? I'm a special education teacher and mental health counseling graduate student, and I'm constantly triggered. Oh, that would have been a really great question for her. So, look, I believe we're going to do these, if not weekly, then bi-weekly. And so she'll be back. She'll absolutely be back where we can, have more in-depth conversations like this. And you guys should, have your questions ready because this is a really great question that I wish I would have been able to ask her. But I left her email there, and if you guys want to join the mailing list for the American Institute for Stuttering, just send your emails, and I hope this helped. I'm logging off. Bye, guys. You guys are fantastic. Adios.